Welcome to a Chat with Heart podcast. I'm your host, Christina Martin. I'm here to help guide heartfelt conversations with new and old friends I've met from just being alive or touring my music around North America and other parts of the world. I chat with people I feel a kinship with and that I genuinely believe we can learn from. Our personal stories have great power to heal, influence, and inspire. All we have to do is show up for the conversation.
We just talk about it. We could shine a light, we could break a dark day. If we just talk about it, we can cut away, we can make a brighter day.
Hello. So I have this hotline you can call. Anyone can call it, any age. It's called the Heartbeat Hotline. You can ask me anything you want, and I'll answer it on the podcast. But since I'm paying money for it monthly, I really want to make use of it. So I have a question for you, my Heartbeat listeners. Remember episode 1 of season 1? My special guest was my best friend, Dale Murray. To this date, he has been the most downloaded episode. So this leads me to consider the fact that he is well adored. My question for y'all is, do you want him to be a guest again very soon? And do you have questions for Dale? Call my Heartbeat hotline, 1-902-669-4769, and let me know. It's 100% in your hands. So I'm having a really good week. New single and video for Little Princess are coming out April 14th. Might be out by the time some of you hear this, so check the streaming sites, my Bandcamp site. It won't be hard to find. I love launching things. My grandpa always said, don't be too proud, but fuck that, Grandpa. I am proud of the work that we all did on the song. Myself, Dale Murray, co-producer, engineer. He mixed it. Dave McNair, who mastered it. The musicians on the album. On that song, Jordy Comstock, Jason Vautour. Oh my God, Karen Graves. Collaboration on the strings. Fantastic. I'm proud of the song, the music, all the hard work that went into it. The music video that Brendan Henry dreamed up and I will say worked his ass off to deliver. It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I really believe that. Check it out, Little Princess on YouTube. I'm proud of the people I work with. I'm proud of Nicole Aline Legault, who did the artwork and the animations for Little Princess, which you're going to start seeing, or they'll be up on my social media. That's a very important collaboration for me with Nicole. We've been working together since 2017. Love, love, love everything that she does. Also, my fucking accountants are awesome. I just want to throw that in there. But anyway, I'm not expecting to have anything horrible happen anytime soon. But for some reason right now, I'm not getting stressed out about much. I'm working really steadily and enjoying the process and taking breaks when I need it. Taking care, making time for exercise, rest, friends, like all the good stuff that it took me maybe a long time. Like I always made time for exercise, but I don't know. I think especially since losing my brother in 2013, I have devoted more time to being more present for my friends. And interestingly, the song Little Princess is a song that is about me and my brother. So there, I tied that up nicely. Anyhow, I had a band practice the other day in Halifax, Dale and I, and it made me even more pumped for the 2 ECMA showcases we have coming up in Halifax, first week of May. And you can get tickets if you're in Halifax. You can get wristbands that get you into a lot of shows. Check out the UCMA website or my website for links to get those different levels of wristbands, I guess. But yeah, the public can buy wristbands and attend those showcases. I've been going through the list of music delegates coming to Halifax from all over the world to meet with all the artists and enjoy the music. I think it's so cool. I actually like meeting with these people and asking them about their work. And oftentimes, like, it ends up in collaborations or performances in the future for me and my band. I don't really think of it like schmoozing, which, like, schmoozing does feel gross. I mean, I have schmoozed in the past. I just think of, these kinds of, like, meetings and stuff at music conferences. Like, it's like going to a new school and getting to know, like, make new friends, or maybe not. But I don't know. I just like the freshness of it all, the newness. And you do see people that you know and you've known for years, and that's fun. Especially after this long ass, many years of not seeing people we really miss. So UCMA is pumped. I'm pumped. So I'm looking forward to playing and connecting with people and having a good time. Speaking of a good time, my guest today, Anne Bérubé, is a spiritual teacher who rocks. She's made her life's purpose about helping individuals remember the happiness within them. Remember the happiness within them. Ever had a near fatal or mystical experience? Anne has, and it rocked her world. Nothing like a good near-death experience to set you on your path with heart, I say. To date, Anne has written and published 2 fantastic books, Be, Feel, Think, Do, and The Burnout Antidote. I've read them both, and I'm rereading them both. They have helped me let go, accept, reconnect with a sense of safety and groundedness. Get the books. You won't regret it. That was pushy. It's your choice, but I'm just saying they're really awesome. Through her own workshops, can you tell I'm reading bits of her bio? Because, people spend a lot of time on their bio and, like, they know themselves, or they hire really good people to write these things to, like, so why not? Why not read bits of the bio? I hope people read my bits of my bio. So check out Anne's website, annebérubé.com, Embodied Spirituality. And there you'll find links to her virtual and in-person retreats, her books, so you can buy them, and her podcast, Embodied. I don't want to leave out that Anne also has a plethora of education under her belt, including, no biggie, a PhD. And her work has also allowed her to share the stage with many of her heroes, including best-selling authors Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra. Enjoy this delightfully enlightening chat with Anne Bérubé. How are you feeling this week? How is life treating you today or this week?
It's busy.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a little bit busy, but it's good. Yeah, January is my birthday month, and it's also like the winter, so I feel like I'm always contemplating, trying to take a break, trying to, like, I'm forced, like how I lost my voice. Like, that doesn't surprise me, because I definitely tend to call to me experiences like that to force me to stop.
So had you just gotten back from a retreat, and then
yes,
you became ill, and is this a sign that you need another retreat, but just for you? Like, is that
yes. 100%.
We're gonna talk about retreats for sure.
Yeah.
I want to welcome you to a Chat with Heart podcast and say thank you for all of your offerings that have been so accessible online and I know in person too. Even throughout the pandemic, you've been starting to get back into doing in-person events. But for a lot of people, myself included, being able to access your teachings online has been so great. I've benefited from both of your books. And I'm someone who rereads, like when I find a good book and I spread the word. But I reread because I have such a bad memory, but I'm so grateful for these books and your mini courses online. And I'm only just scratching the surface. So thank you. And I want to say all that because my little heartbeat listeners, some of them are just going to get to know you today.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Okay, so in both your books, you've said, looking back, I can say I was living as the image I had of myself, not my actual self. And that is something, I'm really diving right in here, aren't I?
Yeah, please, let's do it.
But that is something that really resonates with me. I know it well. And, at times in my life, I feel like I've regressed a bit, but I was wondering if you could share what happened to you and, what was that, what did that image you had of yourself versus your actual self? Like what's the diff?
Yeah. That's a big question, Christina.
I know, but you know what? Read the book, everybody. Forget it. Next question.
Oh my God. I'm sure some of your listeners can relate to, growing up with trauma, right? And having an environment in which maybe it wasn't where they were supported the most, or maybe seen the most, or validated the most for who they really were, right? Like I believe like we're all born good and open and expanded and without limits, and we don't yet know how to measure ourselves or to give half of ourselves. Like we're just fully us. And then, through our childhood and young adult lives, things happen that tell our bodies and our psyches that who I really am, which is like bright and loud and creative and passionate and angry sometimes, does not belong in the world that I'm in. And so then we become an image of ourselves. That's what I mean by that. We become what we think the world wants us to be, because at the end of the day, a child does not want to not belong. That is like death. So to belong in that family, to belong in that team or in that classroom, or to belong in that church group, I need to change this and that about my spontaneous expression. And then I become a version of myself that I've fabricated, often unconsciously, to survive my environment. Mm-hmm. And so when I was 23 and I was coming back from golfing with friends, and my boyfriend at the time took a left turn into oncoming traffic, and a half-ton truck hit the car that I was in. I had a near-death experience in that moment, but it's not the kind of, where a white tunnel opens up and someone comes and says, "Come over here. Yes, we are your family." No, it wasn't like that at all. It was more like my body was jarred so violently that I saw, like a movie in front of my mind's eyes, my life. But it wasn't the life I'd been living. It was the life that I was meant to live. And I couldn't really explain that super well right after the accident. But now I can. What I saw felt more real than anything else. And it felt more real than anything I'd ever experienced. And so I knew that I had to find a way. When I woke up the next day in the hospital, I knew I had to find a way to merge who I really was with who I was living as, so that the image and the self would just be one. And that was the beginning.
So let me guess, it took a week to sort that all out?
Yeah, week. And I was all healed and ready to teach. No.
Yeah. Preach it, sister.
No.
So 1 week, can you imagine? Can you write that book? 1 week to living your best self.
Exactly. You will be enlightened 1 week. No, and I do know that some people like Anita Morjani, like who've gone through near-death experiences, they're changed immediately and then they don't really go back. But that's not what it was for me at all. I was like, I have to find a way. So I saw the what, like I knew what I was looking for because I felt it and I'd seen it in the car accident. But I didn't know how, and that took 5 years for me to get to the how, which I talk a lot about in my books. It's this embodied emotions, an embodied like soul and presence. And I was not embodied. Even after the car accident, I was very much in my head. I was guided by my intellect, which was just very good at controlling every aspect of my life. And, I was able to get where I wanted to go with my intellect until I couldn't anymore. And I talk about in the book, the story where I met myself. I came home to my body in a program. And that's when I realized the how. This is it. My body is the instrument that my soul chose for this human adventure. And knowing God, knowing universe, knowing consciousness, whatever you want to call it, knowing my divinity has to happen through the cells of my body. And I say below the neck, because up above the neck, we get lost in the stories and the ego and the past and the future. But as we sink into our bodies and bring our attention and our breath into the body, we're here now and we are with our divinity. And then that's where the remembering of who we are happens. That's where the healing happens. That's where we get hints and glimpses of our gifts and our talents and why we came.
This morning I put on is it called Earth Meditation? It's like 14 minutes. And so I just committed to making that part of my morning yoga and meditation routine, because what you described about, if you're not embodied, then you're disembodied.
Yeah.
That's I don't fully understand this, but I have been leaning on my head and feeling disembodied, and it's very uncomfortable and not fun. And so, but I know that I haven't always been this way, but I have also been this way. And when you said that you saw the what,
yes,
that and a near-death experience, you were able to see that is like, it sounds like a huge gift, because seeing or knowing the what can be so hard for people. But when you know the what, my head anyway tells me, at least then you can move backwards to figure out like some, but I'm certainly glad you didn't see the light and somebody didn't pull you over to the other side. But do you see it as a huge gift?
Yeah. I mean, it took me a while to see it as a gift, because at the time I was in academia and there's no one around me, including my partner at the time, that could understand. I could barely understand what had happened. And I judged myself for even thinking or for even believing what I experienced, because I thought that's not logical. And then, my boyfriend at the time, we'd been together for a long time, and he's very rational, very, intellectual as well. And so I didn't have a lot of friends around that could understand that. So I didn't see it as a gift right away. I saw it as, there is my weird Anne again, this part of me that I've just been suppressing. And I used to think of that part of myself as, she's out of control. She's not proper. She's not valid. I need to tame her. And there she was again. And so I was a little upset for a while, but the initial feeling waking up was, I have to find a way to get back on track. Like, I know this was really real, but then my intellect came in really quickly, and I was like, I don't know if I want that part of me to come back. And so,
Yeah.
but I see it as a gift. I see it as it was supposed to happen that way, because I guess I wasn't meant to be off track for too long. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost like my higher self was like, oh, look at her. She's so cute. She's doing all these things, but we have to, we have work to do. So let's bring her back.
Yeah. And was there ever a time, I've wondered this for myself, because mental illness can fall upon anybody, and certainly there's a genetic component for certain individuals, but there doesn't necessarily have to be.
Right.
So have you ever had the experience where you've gone like, I'm having these thoughts and feelings of this life I want to lead, but like, honestly, is this like a mental illness that I'm having these thoughts, because other people don't seem to think that I am in my right mind right now?
Yeah, there's definitely, absolutely. And I mean, mental illness is definitely an interesting topic, because it is linked to forgetting who we really are. And so if we hadn't forgotten, and these things that are unexplainable would happen to us, or the feeling of knowing would have happened to us, it wouldn't be a problem. We wouldn't be doubting ourselves. And the people around us would know with clarity that this is who we are, right? And so the doubt comes from the division that happened. And then this division, we have a lot of reassurance around us that, well, this is a mental illness, so this is what you should do, this is where you should go, this is what you should take. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, because there's places for all of it, and I do often recommend people take the medication that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that there is a very a line there that's porous, and often it can kind of lead on one side or the other. And so I think it's really important to know, okay, the idea is at the end of the day, I want to own all of myself. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to have self-agency. So how much do I give power away to other people's opinion and to these labels? And are other people's opinion and the labels actually defining who I am, instead of me searching and owning and reclaiming who I really am? Both go hand in hand, but at the end of the day, you're the one going to bed with yourself at night, and you're the one who you're going to be with yourself at the end of your life. Like, you're dying with yourself. Mm-hmm. And so this relationship with your own self has to be clear and honest. And we have to reclaim that power.
Sounds like it's going to take time.
Oh yeah.
Damn it. So annoying.
But if you think about a lot of the people listening, or maybe, you, and I know myself, like, as little girls, like we saw and knew things that nobody else could validate, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we'd be in the presence of an adult, and they would say words that didn't match how they felt. Mm-hmm. And we would be like, you're saying this, but I can feel you differently.
You're lying.
You're lying. You're literally lying. Exactly. And so if that doesn't create a mental issue in people, like, what will, right? Like, it's like, so now I'm supposed to just believe you when my instinct tells me this is about something else. It's about honesty, right?
I have some spider senses for sure. And I want to listen to them always. But there is a voice in my head sometimes that goes, Christina, maybe you were wrong about that feeling or that person. Or maybe, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe is it linked to something in my past? Maybe this is where you talk about when, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from. And then is there something to this idea of like, sometimes you might have a feeling about something that is actually you're hanging on to something from your past. And if you don't recognize that, then you won't be able to identify whether it's relevant in the moment. Is that, or should you just always trust your gut?
So the thing is that we're so not used to trusting our guts that then when we want to, we don't know if it's telling the truth or not. And then we see it as black and white, but it really isn't. If you trust your gut and it was the wrong thing to do, okay, move on. Now your spidey sense, your intuition got adjusted. You understood something about how your soul speaks to you through your body. You're not supposed to know it right away. And so I think it's important to give ourselves that permission to fail and to be wrong, because that's how we strengthen our intuition.
Oh, I like that. That's a good reminder that it's we talk a lot about failing and admit our failures on this podcast and celebrate them. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to go, oh shit, I fell flat on my face.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, good. I'm learning something. That's how you become more intuitive, is by trying.
I suppose if it involves another person, like a working relationship or a personal relationship, then at that point, it's a big positive to even go, if it's necessary, to go back and say, I made a mistake. I recognize that. Moving forward, I know better. We don't need to talk about it for hours or go to therapy.
I think that, that direction wasn't quite right, but it felt right at the time. And I can promise you I'll make more mistakes in the future.
Yeah. I promise.
You promise, because the people around you have to be okay with you trying things, especially as an artist, right?
Yeah, it's true.
The only way to get to the gold is failing. Ah, here's the gold. Failing.
Highly recommend it. It's we're so afraid to do it, particularly when it comes with, financial finances attached to it, where you're worried. Yeah. It's like this, I have to make this decision, this money count. That's a real hard one, because it's easy to make mistakes if it isn't attached to some kind of financial loss or your sense of security, I suppose.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the first chakra is the root chakra, and that's the earth, and that's the safety. And when it comes to levels of thoughts, safety is number one. So I cannot entertain being creative, talk about enlightenment, and actually like fully surrender to who I'm becoming if that very first basic need is not met. So I remember a long time ago, someone asked Deepak in an interview, they said, you should really go teach like meditation, in the underdeveloped countries or the war-torn countries. And he's like, no, they need food. They need a shelter. They need to know. So for us, it translates with, if you're always in fight or flight with finance or with physical, relationship that's not physically safe, or your home is not safe, or there's an emotional lack of safety, is very difficult to tap into creativity.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is like third chakra, then identity linked to it, and then speaking that creativity.
I think as business owners and creators, we forget, or we struggle sometimes with that, making sure we feel safe, and finances can be a part of that before we, that can take a lot to get to that, and that it's okay to do the things you have to do to get safe, whatever that means for you.
Exactly. Absolutely. So important. And sometimes as spiritual seekers, we don't validate the importance of safety because we think it's a low level concern, but it's actually the ground. If you don't have a ground to stand on,
so important.
not much it's like a tree with no roots.
It's a floppy tree.
It's a floppy tree. It could get knocked down very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The burnout antidote. Remember this, Anne?
Mm-hmm. That's so 2022.
I know. Right?
I'm kidding.
It's so wait, you got another one lined up this week? Burnout is linked to all of a lot of what we're talking about, what you're sharing today. And so I want to pick that apart a bit because it's so important. And, I struggle, and I wish I should find another word for struggle. It's a challenge for me, not burning out. I'm a workaholic. So last night I did the complimentary burnout antidote quiz on your website.
Yes.
And the results confirmed what I had thought my relationship to love was.
Oh.
Which I'm going to say I was like, damn it.
The quiz is right.
Yeah, the quiz is, I think it is absolutely accurate. Unfortunately, I'm human disembodied at the moment.
Okay.
But the good news is that you said that this can change.
Of course. That's the whole point.
Oh, I was so scared that I would be stuck. But I was like, I know that I kind of know how this might end up because I can feel it. I can feel it in me. And it's been something I've been struggling with, but I didn't understand that it was related to, my relationship with love.
Yeah.
But the good news is, and for anybody, I highly recommend listeners go onto Anne's site and do the quiz. And of course, there's other mini courses and retreats you can access from her site. But there's also, which is great, there always has to be like some hope, right? Some tools for like how so I love that it was just so simply laid out for me what I can do to improve my relationship with love. So thank you for that. But let me back it up.
Okay.
Because a burnout, I think it can be sneaky. Like I think we think of burnout as like, I can't get out of bed anymore, which some people might burn out. They may just call it or mistake it sometimes for depression.
Mm-hmm. It's linked for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But what about sometimes you probably are burnt out, but you just don't know it. Like what can burnout look like? What does it look like for you?
Oh my gosh, it's a good question. So for me, the reason why I wrote the book is because it happened to me and it was a crisis in meaning. And at the time I didn't know that's what was going on, but I was annoyed at myself because I thought everything that I worked for and towards, now I have, and I am resentful.
Oh yeah, bingo. I mean, sorry. But,
yay.
but thank you at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And so in the book, I described this moment where my husband came into my office and I was angrily typing an email.
So it's not funny, but I can just relate. I can relate.
And he said, "Are you okay?" I said, I think I need to refer this client to someone who still likes people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for a spiritual coach, let me tell you, I was a bit ashamed of that, but it was the truth. So what I realized, and so then ensued, 9 months of work. I actually stopped seeing clients for a while because I was like, I know I'm meant to do this, but it's not working right now. So what is this about? And what I realized after the work is that I was helping because I needed to be needed. And that my service, even though I was meant to serve and it came from my soul, the how I was doing it was coming from my trauma. And so when you serve from a place of trauma, eventually you you burn out, you hit the wall. Like you can't be that thing to the people around you, because your cup empties very quickly, a lot faster than if, it was coming directly from your core essence and not from your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was such an interesting period of my life that I wanted to write a book about it, because I knew a lot of people who are of service. Like that is what they do. Like even you with your music, like that is what we do. We know we're here to bring an experience for people, and we care deeply about this mission. And so how can we not throw in the towel and stop it all together? This is the book. It's an antidote to this crisis in meaning that happens. So the why has to be because it's who I am, not because I'm needed, because I'm good at it, because people like it when I do it, because I make money with it, because I've always done it. Those are not good reasons.
Your book and there were a few other encounters I had in recent months, including reading another book that my friends Mike and Kristen, they have a podcast and they wrote a book about their adventures. And so I'm reading your book, I'm reading theirs, and I mentioned earlier in this episode that I've been feeling disembodied, and what you described about your own work and feeling ashamed about that as well. And I worked so hard, and then resentful and hard on myself. So, finally recognizing all this and going, I just need to get back to the source. I said thank you to Mike and Kristen. I want to say thank you to you as well, because I think reading this book definitely, made me kind of put my money where my mouth is and go, like, this isn't going to get better for you.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to, you just need to do something.
Yeah. And sometimes it is, well, congratulations for taking that step, because that is huge. It's so hard to love ourselves that much.
It's pretty hard. Yeah. It's hard in the pocketbook too. It's like,
Yeah. So congratulations on taking that step, because that is probably the hardest one. Because I think I do talk about this in the book, is the first, you're like, I need to do something about this. But then the second chapter is like, I bet you're already thinking that now is not the time, or you don't have the money, or blah,
Yes.
So that's the second thing that comes right. It was like, well, maybe next year, or it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I can handle it.
Like a really important step is to double down on your resolve.
Double down.
Yeah, double down on what you know that you need, and that is true. So, and then it's like, well, I'm selfish, and do I really need this? Like, who says I need this? I say I need this. That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough.
And said I need to. Yeah, and I find myself looking at other people around me that I love who are working their butts off, and I'm not perceiving that they are complaining, and so I forget that we are separate people, and that maybe somebody else is already tapped into that limitless source, and or maybe not, maybe they're struggling and they're just hiding it, as we can do as well, and not to compare, because oftentimes if you say, hey, I'm burnt out, or I'm, but it appears your life is good from other people might say something like, what have you got to complain about? I mean, or,
Has anyone ever said that actually to you? Except for maybe your parents.
Not when I've, except for your parents. You know what? That's a good point. Not my friends.
No, nobody who actually resonates with you.
You're right. It's true. I think it's been said less so about burnout, if I've ever admitted that, but if about stress or feeling anxiety. I think that for some reason, that's still it's that anxiety, mentioning that carries a lot of stigma still, that people don't really understand what that means, and they think, what's the big deal? You have everything, So, I mean, again, none of my friends or people that resonate would say that, but people have said that in my life. What have you got to be sad or anxious about? You know?
And when people say that, that's 100% about them. When people say that, 100%, they don't give themselves the permission to feel what they feel. And so they're going to say this to you almost to test it. Yeah. Right? Like, it's always about something they're going through, and then they're projecting it onto you. And then it is totally sticking to us because we have doubts about what we feel.
Oh, you nailed it. I love this.
Right? So someone with anxiety is someone with high passion. Someone with anxiety, someone has high life force moving through them, big mission, and it's just too small in the body, and it's too small around them to fit this magnitude. And then it was suppressed and over and over and over. And then we become the suppressor of it because we learned that that's what we should do. So we become the one that actually puts us down with our inner dialogue and then our doubts about ourselves. So when you say other people don't seem to have that same, experience, they're not on the same path as you.
True.
Right? Yeah. And so someone might be here to actually experience this steady human experience.
Yeah.
And that is what their soul wanted. And then we come and we're like, I am here to accelerate my evolution. I'm here to incarnate all of my light and all of my creativity. And it's going to be messy. And it's going to be explosions here and there because I've never done this before to this magnitude. And I need people around me who understand that. They're okay with me exploding here and there, because how else am I going to learn how to channel this incredible amount of energy into this body if I don't try and speak and yell and scream and stomp?
This is so helpful. Like, I totally I'm grateful that you have your PhD and of all your near-death experience. And I mean, seriously though, like no, thank you. This is really helpful. But I read in your book, you had said the things we think we're doing to recharge are robbing us of our core essence and not actually allowing us to tap into our gifts and serve others or take care of ourselves. And that retreats are a way to remedy this, which resonated so hard with me. But were you talking about things like binge watching our favorite shows, or like eating a whole bag of potato chips in one sitting, but a little too often?
Yeah. No, so a little too often. That's really the key. So I'm all for entertainment. What
are you binge watching? Come on.
Oh my gosh. I just finished, there's a good show on Crave, and it's called The Vow, and it's about this cult that happened in the US and in Canada called Nexus. It's so good. I actually really needed to watch the whole thing, because when they start talking, it sounds a little bit like how I talk. And I was like, oh no.
Oh, I do that all the time where I'm like,
no.
Is this me?
Is this a cult? Is it what? I know. So and I'm like, next episode. I'm like, where does this go off the rail? I need to see exactly where this goes off the rails, because.
So you're doing homework so that you don't develop a cult.
Exactly. I was like, what's the difference between me and them? No. Big difference. Like, there was definitely a lot of manipulation and sexual assaults.
I don't feel manipulated or sexually assaulted by you, Anne.
Good.
So
just so glad.
Putting that out there. Just yet.
But really, truly, it is a good documentary to see how people will give up their power very easily to a spiritual teacher, because they're desperately looking for that figure like a mother or a father that's going to finally say, you are enough.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teacher, I'm really careful of that, because I don't want followers. Like, I don't want people who think that I know something they don't. You know, I want to remind them of what they already have, and then empower them to kind of just go out in the world and do their thing. And so, but it's inevitable. Like, I did that. I put people on pedestals, like with Wayne and with Anita and with my mom, and so when I would do that, I'd be like, they have something I don't have. Mm-hmm. So I'm not enough. I'm not complete unless I have them in my life. And until I realized, holy shit, like, they're me. I'm seeing myself in them, and I think it's them, but it's me. And then completely being that, you know, the father or the mother to myself. And then, you know, so I think it is really important to see. It's a very important documentary to see, because the language can become quite confusing, because it's close to the way we work, like when we do work with people, but then it's like, okay, if it's about you and it's not about the person you're helping, then you're in the wrong business. It's got to be always about the other person and their healing and their growth and their independence and their self-agency.
You mean as a spiritual teacher? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think as an artist too, maybe, like, it's like this love, right? Like, it's about loving them.
Oh, do you mean like loving? Because I think there is an element of learning to love. For me, it's been about learning to love myself and find mm-hmm. my truth, my story.
Yes.
Like, really, which is so hard for me, because we are raised to not focus on the self, and that we don't share certain mm-hmm. things, and then, you know, carrying the shame. So self-love, I'm still working on that. But then once a song comes into, you know, actuality and is recorded, I don't think I do. I don't know how much of that I do for myself. I feel like that comes from this drive to share and connect. I mean, it does get a little, sometimes I forget, because I get wrapped up in the business of it all and the details, which are not always fun. But when I, you know, try to get back to the source and I've asked myself, why do you write songs, and why do you perform them and share them? And why do you have, like, you know, social media and all this stuff? Ask yourself, why are you doing this stuff? Yeah, it comes down to, well, wanting connection. And then, yeah, I think love is a part of it. Love and connection is love, for sure. Okay, good. Oh, then yeah, I do it for love, for sure. Here comes another great reminder from the Burnout Antidote. Are you ready?
No.
Because you tapped into, you said this a little bit about this earlier. Your job is not to help everyone. Your job is to create the greatest impact by honoring, protecting, and expressing your unique gifts, which is, as I said earlier, that it makes so much sense to me, resonates, and I'm like, yes, but then it's like, oh, I have to unlearn, like, what I wasn't raised to focus on my gifts. I was, you know, raised to look at what other people need and try to fix that.
Yes.
Good reminder, though.
It is. And it is, like, you're right that it is completely counter culture. Like, it's counter how we've been told, and especially in spiritual or, you know, spirituality, or even like in spiritual communities, even religious communities, that to be a good person, you have to be a martyr. And that's how we were kind of shown and modeled. Like, selflessness is service. But yeah, you could you could give everything you've got and die from it. And okay, but there's this push inside of us to actually really incarnate our gifts in the way that we wanted to come and express them, and then to use them in that way. And we forgot how to do that, and we won't feel fulfilled until we do. And fulfillment is really, really important, because it is like, imagine celebrating your 95th birthday and you with your friends, and everybody says like, wow, like she lived her life the way she wanted to live it. And then you feel so good because you've actually felt fulfilled, because you lived the life that you wanted to live, not the one that other people wanted you to live. And, Bronnie, in her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, that is the toppest. The toppest. Nice. The toppest. Yeah. It's, I wish I'd lived the life I wanted to live, not the one others wanted me to live. And so that really matters to the soul as it transitions back into the, other side, or, next lifetime, is that what you decide you were coming to do, you did. And what you decided to do was for your highest good. Mm-hmm. And so when you let other people, you feel like you're letting other people down because you're not the martyr anymore. It feels like you're not the good person. But actually what you're doing by staying in that relationship in the way that it was, you're enabling them to stay the same. Mm. So you're actually not loving them. You think you're loving them, but you're actually enabling them, because they're getting from you this energy and they're not learning, they're not growing. Yes. So you remove yourself from that, and then you focus on yourself. And then when you feel full and you engage service from that place of fullness, you love the person in front of you way more than you did when you were depleted and a martyr. And it's powerful. The impact is powerful. So the people who were left behind sometimes feel, hey, I want you to stay the way you were. I don't want you to change. I need you that way. That's okay. Let them fuss. It's fine, because you loving yourself to connect and to serve in the way that's meaningful to you is actually loving them more than what you were doing.
It's powerful stuff.
It's the difference between embodied and disembodied empathy. Mm-hmm. We think that empathy is about taking on the feeling of someone else, but when I'm doing that, I'm depleting myself, and then I don't have access to my force and my strength and my power.
Yeah, that's not something we learn. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've learned or I've ever heard of before. I've heard you speak of that, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. When you think about your life and what you want, and we can both speak to making travel a part of our work and our routine, really. And you take people to the most beautiful places in the world and have these wonderful retreats. And it looks like a lot of fun. I bet you witness a lot of tears as well, but like all healing, all good. But I'm assuming that was by design. You were like, well, I'm drawn to these places. Like, what draws you to some of these places? How do you select where the retreats are going to be?
Well, after my car accident, and then I had that experience, I figured out how I can live like that. I started to study with different teachers. I studied with Louise Lebrun, who's out of Ottawa. I studied with Deepak Chopra, and I studied with a shaman named Laura Kealoha Yardley. She's a shaman in Kauai. And I completely fell in love, with the work that she was doing. And so I went back 3 or 4 times to do intensives with her. Mm-hmm. And so one day I wanted to come back, and she said, nope, you're done. You have to teach it now. And so Kauai, when I first went there, I just fell in love with it, felt like home. And I've never been to China. I've never been to Thailand, never been to Costa Rica. But I've been there 14 times. It's just, wow. it's home. It's home. It's home. So when I'm there, I'm really myself. And so I wanted to share that. I wanted to share the island with people, and I wanted to share the work that I learned from Laura, which is Lemurian Huna. And so it took a while to find the right place to do the program.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the meantime, I did do it in other places. Like we went to Turks and Caicos, and I did it at the Omega Center in New York. And so it's, it's kind of just selfish in a way. I just want to share that with people.
I think that's great. I can relate to that feeling of going somewhere and feeling like home. And I'm not sure why. And I think it surprises a lot of people Germany was that for me, Central Europe. And I don't know if you knew initially that you would be there 14 or more times.
No, I did not.
But that feeling of going somewhere and feeling like this just feels like home, like it's kind of a weird feeling, but I can totally relate to that. And I say, go with it.
Absolutely. There's a place in the world that the outer landscape reflects your inner landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find it, there's this alignment that happens. It's magical.
So you did the work, you're doing the work.
Constantly.
At some point, you decided to share your story, put it into words, as we know how important sharing your story is. But I don't know if everybody gets it always, and that's fine. They don't have to. But I think it's so interesting because I know I've heard it. Many other creators say this too. Like what a lot of people would say, like, I don't know if I would be alive if I hadn't found a way to tell or know my story and share it. I wonder if there was at what point that you said, well, I'm going to write a book, which became your first book, Be, Feel, Think, Do.
Yeah.
And then you were probably hooked after that. You're like, okay, this was hard, but I got to do it again.
Yeah, I know. Did you always know you wanted to do music?
No. Looking back, I know it. I always connected when I was doing music. There was something that was like, there was a natural ability. I wasn't particularly, I didn't excel at certain things musically, but in terms of like rhythm and wanting to move and singing, those things came naturally. But it wasn't until I didn't have a near-death experience, but my father died. And that was a
life-changing experience.
Of course, and
how old were you when that happened?
I was 19, and it's such a complicated, relationship that he and I had. But, it took me a couple years, but it was an awakening, right? I was going through that, witnessing his transition and everything. And then, being at my, I'd say rock bottom for a bit, not too long, I suppose a good year, then moved to Austin, Texas. And at that, it was when I started seeing singer-songwriters live. I'd never gone to see a storyteller in that venue, that type of experience before. It was transformative, and there was something in me that was just compelled with, I want to try and do this thing. How can I felt compelled, obsessed with, like, I just want to try and do this. So that was it for me. But what about you?
Well, it was similar, where talking to people, like I used to organize these little workshops when I was like 12 and they were like 6 years old in my neighborhood. Like they would come in like my basement, and I would do these workshops called creativity and intuition. Like, so I always wanted to gather people and then share with them what works for me. Like that's always been something that I've been drawn. And I used to write in my journal like all the time. I have stacks and stacks from when I was younger all the way to when I was 25 or something. And so that came naturally, right? But it wasn't until I wanted to write a book. So I thought going into doing my PhD would be a good way to start, because I'll have to write a thesis. And then my friend, like when I graduated and I had submitted my thesis and defended it and all done, she said, wow, imagine all that attention and focus you put on writing your thesis. Now you could put it on writing your own book.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so big for me, because I needed to write. I needed someone else to keep me accountable. Like with the thesis, I had to write it. So now I was the only one that I needed to be accountable to. So that was a very different experience, because there's no one else. No one's waiting for my manuscript. No one's like, I don't have a publishing contract. I have to be the one that wants it enough to make it happen. And so I started writing in the book in 2008. And at that point I had studied a lot and I kind of knew what I wanted to say. But just like you, like I went to, in Toronto, I went to a Hay House event. I was working with Wayne Dyer at the time. I was producing events for him, and he'd invited me to come see the event, like I Can Do It in Toronto, and hang out with him. And I remember seeing like Chris Carr, who's the author of Crazy Sexy Cancer. And the way she just was on stage and so natural and just commanded the room and made people laugh and made people feel things. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to find a way to do that. And so similar to you, just experiencing something that just comes and gets you in a way that you're like, okay, that's got to be me, because it feels really. So then, writing the book that could help me also, do that. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. But the first book took 7 years to write, because I was not that kind of a writer. I was an academic writer from my training in academia. So it was really boring reading me. So boring. I had to relearn how to write so that it would be like accessible and not pretentious.
What are you super pumped about this year?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is there one thing, and it could be something simple?
Well, I am super pumped about the next book. I feel it, like I'm excited about it, and it feels different, and it feels time for it. And so I'm excited about the energy of it. It's always like such a fun feeling to be at the beginning of I'm sure you can relate, a song or like an album or like something. You just can feel it in your bones, but you don't have the words yet. So I'm excited about that. And completely human level, I just am in love with basketball right now.
Playing or watching?
Playing.
Oh, and you were on the university team you mentioned earlier.
When I was younger, when I was younger, and so I joined the Nova Scotia Women's League, and I'm 45. I'm one of the oldest on the team, and so it's hard. But Christina, like being so serious and always in my head, like really playing is exciting for me right now. Just play.
Yeah.
And I don't do enough of that. And so I'm just excited to play. And I know that the book comes through joy. I know that. And so, and it is about joy and light. And so, yeah, completely human.
I want to play more too this year. So let's no pressure, but like, let's sort of try for that. When we connect again, we'll be like, so have you been playing a lot lately? And I don't mean music. I mean like, I don't know, dancing, trying new fun things, like laughing, being a goofball.
Exactly. It's so important to just forget and just be with the play and the curiosity and the adventure, not knowing where it's going to go. That's how we were as kids. It's just not knowing where it's going to go, and it's okay.
Are you still doing the podcast Embodied?
I am. It's not like super consistent, but I there was an episode right before Christmas, and then I'm doing one next week, so there'll be another one. So it is not a consistency, but that is something I want to do more consistently. So,
well, take it from someone who doesn't launch consistently either.
okay.
It's okay. Do you know my initial goal with launching my podcast was that I would do 4 episodes a year, and I thought that was like fine. I was like, I can't commit to anything else, but now I'm kind of obsessed with it. But I don't. I'm like, if it's 3 weeks till the next one, like right now I'm stockpiling them, and then Dale has to edit them, and it's like very time consuming, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I say, do you really want to get more? If you do, that's great, Anne. But if you don't,
yeah, I know.
That's okay too, because people have to catch up. I got to catch up to all your episodes.
Exactly. I like that. Thank you for saying that. I guess what I want is to do more podcasts. So create space so that I can do more because I want to, and then let other things go that are not resonating anymore.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So definitely you can send people to my podcast. You can send them to my website.
Yeah, I'm going to send them everywhere. Everywhere.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time. Really enjoy our chat.
Such a privilege and a pleasure.
I don't want to say goodbye to you. Oh, I don't want to say goodbye to you.
Welcome to the Heartbeat Hotline, 1-902-669-4769. I'm the host of A Chat with Heart podcast, Christina Martin, and I'm so excited you called. Leave me your question, suggestion for the podcast, or a comment about this episode. Please be aware your message may be used on the podcast and social media. Tell me your name, where you're calling from, and it's also fine if you want to remain anonymous. Thanks for listening. Have a great fucking day. Thanks for listening to A Chat with Heart podcast, produced and written by me, Christina Martin, and co-produced and engineered by Dale Murray. Check out Dale's website, dalemurray.ca. The podcast theme song, Talk About It, and I Don't Want to Say Goodbye to You were written by me and recorded by Dale Murray. You can find my music on Bandcamp and all the places you stream music. Visit my Patreon page to become a monthly or yearly supporter of this podcast and my music endeavors. If you're new to Patreon, it's a membership platform that helps creators get paid. Sign up at patreon.com/Christina Martin. I would love it if you had time to share, rate, leave a review, and subscribe to A Chat with Heart on all the places you listen to podcasts. Wishing you, my little heartbeats, a great day.